everyone, this is Shonda, the original Stack Sister, and I am here with a tag. I was on the YouTube and seen the newbie booktube tag thing. I forget what it's actually really called. It has a name. So I'm gonna just do it. I have time during this quarantine and we're going to record. We're gonna get the content out there. So I wrote it down because I am forgetful, but I also talk a lot. So we're gonna get right into it. Question 1, why did you start your channel? So most of the people who know me in real life know that I read a lot. And I always have things to say, right? Like I always am ranting, or I'm always like, I read this book, I have so much stuff to say about it, and nobody to tell. And so that's how we got, I actually started with a Bookstagram. Follow me on Instagram, I'll put that below. But I started with a Bookstagram, just kind of showcasing all the books that I'm reading, or that I buy, or that I will read, all these different things. But I still was like, dang, I'm still not talking about the books that I'm reading. I'm still not getting everything I have to say out there. Because like for me, I don't think that you can fully enjoy a book if you don't discuss it afterward. Right? Like if you're not able to kind of debrief, not even that you have to do it with the person, but just to kind of get all that information out into the earth. And so that's what this is for me and for friends, right? Like I'll invite people here with me. I have gotten a lot of my students into reading. I'm trying to get my husband into reading, right? Like just reading for fun. And so as I get those folks into some books, I'm gonna bring them on and we'll talk about it. And so, yeah, that is kind of why I started the channel, as an outlet. Next question. What are some fun or unique things you can bring to BookTube? So in my everyday life, I work in higher education and student affairs. And I have no doubt that that is going to blend into my BookTube. On my Bookstagram, I do books for work Wednesdays, or workbook Wednesdays, mainly to highlight books for professional development, or books for people who work in or want to work in higher education and student affairs. And those are books that I've read for class, that have been recommended to me by mentors or just people in the field, books that I've come across through going to professional conferences, right? Like, and so they're just books that I've come across that have helped me be a really good, I would say, scholar practitioner in higher education and student affairs. So I think that's what's gonna make this different. Hey cousins, hey y'all, trying to help us be the best professionals we could be. Hey, cause that's great. And so yes, before I go on a rant, cause I could do a whole video about that, and I might, right? Like I might do a whole video on why I think that's important. So yeah, TBD, whatever, to be recorded. So next question, what are you most excited about for this new channel? I think just doing it, right? Like I'm excited to actually just do it. I have recorded a lot, lost a lot of footage and things like that for about a year. So I'm excited for it to actually be done and for something to be uploaded on my YouTube account. Next question. Why do you love reading? Okay. So I think for me, reading it started as an escape. I grew up in Detroit, Michigan, and reading for me was an escape of all of the circumstances that came with my life. And so I got into reading fairly quickly. I used to go to the library, not uncommon for people who know me. But I was that kid. Like even middle school, high school, I kept 2-3 books with me. The people who pushed me to read, I'll always be thankful for, right? Like I remember being in middle school and having a history teacher just give me a book and say, I think you'll like this, right? Like, and that being the start of me reading for fun and not just reading because I had to. So yeah, I love it. It's great. What book/series got you into reading? So there's 2 books. One is actually right here. So one book being Kindred by Octavia Butler. It's my favorite book. I always talk about it being my favorite book. I recommend this book to majority of everybody I know who's starting off trying to read for fun or reading to not read only nonfiction. So yes, this, if you have not read this, please read it and then tell me how you like it, right? Like I would like to know that, but I always tell people to read this book. So the next question is, what questions would you ask your favorite booktubers? The question I would have for anybody on the booktube or the YouTube itself, consistency. How do you keep doing this with real life happening, right? Like life is happening, so how do you just stay consistent? So the next question, when did you start reading? Again, I started reading for fun in middle school, and that was kind of like, oh, you know, reading, I do that thing. But when I got to college, it was like it was way different, right? Like I was reading hundreds of books in a year, mainly because, right, like I was reading for school and class and things like that, right? Like I will say that I'm probably one of the only people I know who would read the full book cover to cover for every class. And this is coming from somebody who was in ethnic studies, who did women's studies, right? Like I was a liberal studies major. I read a lot. I read a lot, right? Like also coming from somebody who did psychology. I read those really sometimes boring books back cover to cover, because I just like reading. So yeah. What kind of books do you like to read? I enjoy fiction. Okay, so I think Afrofiction has a place in my heart. And so I think that that's what I really enjoy reading is Afrofiction. I think after that, contemporary fiction is good for me right now, right? Like it's good for now, right? Like I like it, its freshness. I like it. And then, right, like I think all nonfiction is just really good for me. Just because I'm a historian at heart, right? Like I really like information. I really just love information. So to answer that, I think I didn't answer that at all. When I say nonfiction, I mean Black nonfiction. I like to read nonfiction about Black people. I just like Black books. So yeah. Next question. What challenge do you think? What? Okay, so all in all, I scribbled this question down, but the challenges of starting a booktube. I think it would be explaining to people that one, booktube exists, right? I had a conversation with my line sisters and majority of them were like, what's booktube? So you about to record about books, right? Like I think there's that. And I think the next hardest thing or the challenge would be consistency, because I like to think that I'm really busy. And then last question, where do you read? Everywhere, right? Like I read on the couch, I read in the bed, I read here on this blue love seat. So I can read anywhere. I also do audiobooks. And so that allows for me to read on the go. It's not foreign for me to be listening to a book, but also physically reading a different one. I do that very often. But my favorite place to read is the couch. Yeah, I think I'm just basic. And now I have the hiccups. So yeah, that was the end of the weird challenge that I found online. So I did it. And if you have any additional questions, maybe we could do that in the comments. But yeah, so yay me, I'm here. I hope you subscribe and go along for this journey. The quarantine has given me some time to get to recording. So we're gonna just do this thing every day, one video at least. So subscribe, follow me on Instagram, and we're gonna get reading. All right.